Hello and welcome once again to the History of Comics. My name is Paulo, and today we're there was a video by ETA Nick that I was watching the other day, and in the chat, Dr. Von Chilla uh, mentioned some of his underappreciated artists, and the name that popped into my head with that was Ron Randall. So that gave me an idea to do this week's video on one of Randall's indie properties that was published in Dark Horse starting in 1986, and that Randall has gone back to in the last few years. In fact, there have been new stories coming up first by Dark Horse, and now they're published online in the website trekkercomic.com, which I'm going to put the link to in the description. But first I'd like to say something about Ron Randall. This is probably one of the biggest injustices in comics, that he is not considered one of the best in the business. And it's just a shame that he never had a chance to work on a really hot property, because he has some of the best sense of movement that I've seen in comics in a long time. I first found out about him when he worked on the Barren Earth. The Barren Earth was being published in the Brazilian edition of New Teen Titans when I found out about it. But probably the majority of American readers would not have noticed it, because it ran as a backing feature in the pages of Warlord. And it was not until 1985, I think, that it finally got its own spin-off miniseries, The Conqueror of Barren Earth. The title was created by writer Gary Cohn, and Ron Randall was the artist. So let's see if I can show the. So, okay, here it is. This was the Barren Earth, a science fiction post-apocalyptic sword and planet, very inspired on the Martian stories featuring John Carter of Mars. You can see that there are from the reptilian creatures and the reptilian humans that are towering over the other background characters. And the main character was Jinal. She came from off Earth and was surprised to find out that Earth had descended into barbarism, because she was expecting to count on Earth's help with a future alien invasion that was at war with Earth's colonies. But apparently the planet had forgotten about its space exploration past, as technology disappeared, and Earth itself was turned into a wasteland. So the Barren Earth and the Conqueror of the Barren Earth ended on a did not really end. It was supposed to have a follow-up, but DC was not very keen on parallel universes at the time, and the Barren Earth was not even connected to the main DC universe, so they kind of fell by the wayside. And Randall decided to take up an invitation by Mike Richardson and create a property for the new company that Richardson was launching, called Dark Horse Comics, and the magazine Dark Horse Presents. And what he came up with was Trekker. Trekker appeared the first in Dark Horse Comics number 4. First in black and white, although the first story appears here recolored. And this is the story of bounty hunter Mercy St. Clair. The bounty hunters in this universe are called Trekkers. This is a Blade Runner type of universe. Humanity has reached the stars, but planet Earth itself is becoming depleted of resources. There were nuclear wars and nuclear devastation, and much of the Earth is a wasteland. But a lot of people still live in cities, crowded cities, full of pollution and unemployment. So there's a very large criminal element, and as such, the police can't handle it, and that is why they employ trackers, even though they're not very fun, very fun of them. So she after the first series in Dark Horse Presents, which showed us what the main character Mercy Sinclair was capable of. There was a follow-up 6-issue mini-series. This is the cover to number 1, which sort of explored a little bit more of the universe. Randall did not bother recoloring the mini-series, so I hope you can see the black and white artwork. This is great art by Randall, because he's not only a very detailed artist, he also has inks himself, and there's a constant movement from all the characters here. See if I can show this page a little bit, right? Better light. You know, right? Also, great body language from all the characters. In the 6-issue miniseries, there is not much exploration. In fact, the first 3 issues are basically one-shots. There's a continuing storyline that picks up better from issues 4 to 6. But it allows us to not only find out more about what motivates Mercy, but also get in touch with her family and friends, which are the supporting characters. In particular, a police boyfriend and a neighbor best friend who takes care of her genetically engineered dog, and they are contacting the police officer who is her Uncle Alex. Mercy is always portrayed as very capable, and as you can see, she gets into dangerous territory very easily and very eagerly, but sometimes she forgets to plan, but she usually is very competent at her job. In the first story, she had gotten on the bad side of one of the most prominent mobsters in the city of New Galaf, and here she goes after a dangerous criminal. The thing is, Ron Randall is not afraid of showing Mercy in trouble. In this story, it kind of looks like she bit off more than she could chew, but she eventually comes through. She then gets embroiled in a. She's supposed to go on vacation in the second part of the story, but she gets embroiled in a transplanetary political mess. Because this is set up in the 23rd century, so most of Earth's colonies are actually independent. Once more, some action. Randall has a great sense of motion, as I said, and that's apparent in every page. Also in here, as she gets away from a barrage of shots. Here, even when people are talking in the scene, you can see the body language is used to tell the story. This is something that most modern artists don't bother with. After the 6-issue miniseries, there's the series returns to Dark Horse Presents, and there's also a couple of one shots. Let's see. All right, so here it is, and it was in a the Tracker Color Special, some promo artwork in the cover. That we finally get Mercy Sinclair's origin. Actually, I love seeing this in color. It's much better. Randall recolored the first Dark Horse Presents story, but didn't bother coloring the miniseries, and I think everything in here should have color of some sort. So here she meets her teacher, and it's revealed the important parts of her past that contributed to making her a bounty hunter, including the death of her parents and how she decided that she was going to take the law into her own hands because the law couldn't cut it in the city of St. Nugalath. And our uncle, who was a police officer like her father, to in spite of his judgment, allowed her to train to become a tracker. As you can see here in the parts of her training and her first boyfriend in the school where she learned all her skills. And that ties into the new story she gets involved in. She and her teacher need to hunt down her former boyfriend and also one of the teacher's students, who is actually a religious fanatic. And this adds to the sense of loss that Mercy is always having. She's used to losing people she loves, and she keeps on doing her job, not because she senses that she's making a world a better place. It's just a question of going from one mission to the other. In that regard, she's a bit like the Punisher, although she still has some friends and some family, and I guess that's what makes her not go over the edge. This is a very personal work for Randall. You can see that he puts it, he gives it all he's got when he's creating this series. He wanted to make this the most believable universe as possible, not only from a visual point of view, that this is a future universe of the future with science fiction weaponry and part of the dystopic ideal that was very prevalent in the 1980s, but also because the characters are all very well rounded, and it's impossible not to read this and not to want to follow what the characters are doing. It's a great piece of work by Randall. There's another black and white story. She keeps on doing what she usually does, and there is no change in status quo for Mercy St. Clair, but every new story is kind of interesting. It's a bit like you're reading Quarto Maltese. You always know what you're going to get, but you're always happy to get it. In this black and white story, she tangles up with the mobster from her first storyline, and he kind of forces Mercy to work for him as one of the mobster's aides has poisoned his daughter. It's a short story going after a serial killer. And she gets called in by her uncle, the police officer, because he has a better chance of finding the killer quickly. The last story in this volume is Trial by Fire, which was a one-shot published by Image Comics in the 1990s. Once more, she gets tangled up in a political mess. Her book is a bit darker because of all the black edges. She also gets together with one of the reason for her first political mess, which is Bolt. This guy here, a space pacifist who is not very appreciated by Mercy because who refuses to pick up a gun even when under fire. And so the political mass was caused by an alien, and because the alien ends up killing her boyfriend, the police officer, and that's how this ends. So we have here over 300 pages of story in that cute little omnibus format that our course does, and this is still available from Dark Horse. They launched this at the same time that they were launching a new tracker series. And while they're not available here, there are now a couple more tracker collections, but they are also all available in a website, Tracker Comic, where Ron Randall is even now creating new stories. So this is something that I actually didn't hear about until 2013 when it was advertised in the previous catalog. But as soon as I saw, oh, this is Ron Randall, I knew that I had to get it, and it was great to get myself reacquainted with Randall's art, which was one of my favorites during the 80s. And because of this, I really hope that DC sometime decides to collect all of the Baron Earth stories, even though it ends on a cliffhanger. The story is very complete from beginning to end, and it fits very neatly in a volume with less than 280 pages. It went on for about 4 years in the back pages of the Warlord, so there's usually 5 to 6 page stories. Then there's a 4-issue miniseries. So it's a cute little science fiction universe that DC has and that they haven't done anything with. And I could even launch it as a Vertigo collection. That would be good. Not that there's anything adult themed in there, but I'd like to see it. So hopefully the DC one of these years they decide to launch this, because more people deserve to know Ron Randall as one of the greatest artists of the 1980s and the 1990s, who simply never had the chance to become the superstar he deserved. So that's it for this week. I want to thank Dr. Von Schiller for giving me this idea, and um, I'll have to think of something else for my next week's video. And until then, keep reading old comics, and bye bye.